And then there were two. Four came into the semifinal weekend to emerge and are going to be playing in the ELF championship game this week. And we're going to talk about these semifinal games. Welcome in Monday morning, wherever you're tuning in from, whether you are happy about the results this weekend or whether you are sad about the results this weekend. Karen, I'm looking at you. Welcome in, everybody in the chat. We got some of our usuals: Karen, Marcus, Laura, Spike Porter. I'm Nick Alfieri, your co-host of ELF Live, and I have, of course, here with the one and only Matt Bressington. Good morning, Matt. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, Nick. I'm doing pretty good. Crazy ass games, I'm not gonna lie. A lot going on, a lot of storylines. I think maybe I might be wrong, but I feel like this is potentially the most talent stacked final that we've seen potentially in ELF history. It's an absolutely wonderful game.
I am absolutely thrilled for this final. I mean, I was just telling you beforehand, the last time that the Vienna Vikings and the Stuttgart Surge played was in the semifinal in 2023. I was lucky enough to be there in person, and oh my goodness, what a game. And I think that it's going to be just like that this weekend. We are lucky and shaping up for an awesome championship game this weekend. But we have to first talk about our semifinal games and how we got to this point. Marcus, I know you're really happy in the chat. Go Surge. There you go. I picked them too. There we go. All right, Matt, let's talk a little bit about our individual games, okay? Our two games. Then, of course, you guys make sure you stick around here because we're going to be doing the MVP of the week of the semifinal round, and we need your guys' help because there's a lot of names floating around. We can go a couple different ways. So you guys help us out with the MVP at the end. But first, let's talk about this. Vienna Vikings hosting the Nordic Storm, first ever year for the Nordic Storm. Matt, I will say, this is on paper the most successful season for a first-year franchise that we've ever had in the ELF. So we had Madrid coming in last year, doing pretty well. We had Munich and Paris coming in and being pretty solid, but we've never had a team get all the way to the semifinals in their first ever years of existence. So kudos to them, but the Vienna Vikings just a little bit too much. Talk to me about this one, our first semifinal matchup.
Yeah, that was a lot going on, but I think the story of this one comes down kind of to the flags. I'm going to be honest. Nordic with a ton of flags, especially towards the end of the game, but it just kind of ended up stalling them for a little bit. But how can you ignore Jadrian's toughness was incredible. His
Dude.
leg, time wrong with his leg during the sack, gets hurt. Could barely put any weight on it even during the timeout. He's leaning on Adria during the timeouts. He can't put any pressure on his leg. Still goes out, had a great game, minus some interceptions. But when your knee's busted up, it's kind of hard to be throwing as consistently. But he was great, and I think that he deserves a lot of praise for how he handled that, how he kept the team in the game. And a lot of love for Jadrian. I was me and him friends, but that was a crazy tough performance.
Dude, Jadrian was inspiring me off my couch in my living room. It's like, damn, Jadrian, I'm getting chills. Just like, this dude is inspiring me. Kind of one of the great things about sports there. So feel bad for him. The backup quarterback came in and threw a 44-yard drive. Like, it wasn't beautiful, but I was like, whoa, they might be all right. Luckily, Jadrian came back in and grinded it out. And we've got Glenn in the chat here, Matt. He says, give an unbiased opinion here on the Nordic Storm here. Glenn, well, here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say about this game. Obviously, we talked about it last week, how the Vienna Vikings is kind of the first time they're facing an elite passing offense, which I think the Nordic Storm are. However, the Nordic Storm are quite one-dimensional. 25 yards rushing for the Nordic Storm. That's it. And it does make me wonder what this would look like if they had a Glenn Tunga. If Glenn was still in there and they weren't just relying so heavily on the pass. What do you think about that?
That's very true. I mean, as he says bias, right? But everything I said in the pregame was true, Nick. I said they're one-dimensional offense, and they were because, like you said, no running game. I also said that line was not as good compared to Vienna's defensive line, and that was true. They got shredded. Well, with one leg, Jadrian had to move a ton. Right tackle, left tackle, interior. And then Waheem was also hurt during it, so that wasn't great for them on that front as well. But I was right. Like, you can say bias all you want. I was right, and I'm good with that,
There you go. There you go. Hey, Glenn, can you tell us about the 12 penalties for 176 yards? Because when you look at that stat, it's actually a damn miracle that this was just a one-score game. I mean, that's a lot of penalties. And Glenn, if you have any color to give us on that, because the Vienna Vikings were more disciplined in the penalty front, only 3 penalties for 15 yards, 12 for 176. I feel like that's the most penalty yardage that I've seen this entire season for a team. So that was unfortunate. But yeah, I do, I like the receiving core for the Nordic Storm. You got your Simon Fons, of course, you got your Bolio. I do feel like there were some times where the receiving core was letting Jadrian down. There were some key drops, I think, where Jadrian kind of extended some plays, worked a little bit of magic, and there were some drops. Kind of disappointing, in my opinion. What do you think?
I agree. I think you're spot on. But those drops all over, to be fair. You look at
Yeah.
Ben Holmes' numbers, and they are fantastic. I mean, I had some back and forth with a player this weekend. He said that Holmes didn't have like a clinical game, but he did. He was phenomenal, picking apart the team left, right, and center. But even he had a drop with Meyer. B. Obama got a drop as well. So both receivers caused a couple of drops, but overall, I do think it was more of a net positive. Like Fons did have a good game, especially on some of those outside routes, and Huzar using his big size, great length. But I think he could be a serious target for a lot of teams in this offseason, Nick, because
We
he
were
had a
talking
great
about that.
season.
I mean, it might be tough to retain a guy like Fons because he's made a case for himself this year to be a legitimate import around the league. But who knows? I mean, the Nordic Storm are building something really special there, and I hope that they're able to kind of retain a lot of this talent because what an incredible foundation that they've put there. Let's talk a little bit about the Vienna Vikings front. You talked about Ben Holmes. Clinical man, I love it. Ben Holmes, he's like 30 years old, father of two. He did have that great quote on social media. He said, Nordic Storm having a little bit of a Cinderella story, but Cinderella story ends in Vienna, which it did. Yannick Meyer coming back from the injury earlier in the season, making a huge impact there. He had the 2 touchdowns, and he did have a nice moment where he caught the touchdown pass, and he went right up to the camera with the audio there, and he said, I'm a dog. I'm a dog, which is just so on brand for Yannick Meyer. Big fan of that. Uh, what do you think ultimately was the difference here, Matt?
I think it was the running backs out of the backfield. Obviously, Curry had a great game throughout during his handoffs, as did Vegan. But on some of those plays where they're getting Ben a little bit flustered behind the line, running backs just find a way into spaces, able to dump it off. We saw that with Vegan's long touchdown. We saw that with Curry multiple times. He ended up with 6 catches for 63 yards. Vegan got 1 catch for that 32-yard touchdown. So there was a lot of yards given up by the linebackers potentially not covering the running backs out of the backfield. That for me was a big part. You turn those plays into some sacks or some TFLs or some incomplete passes, and I think this is very different. But that ultimately, I think, was the dagger when Vegan just went straight through, wide open down the middle for a long touchdown. That was it for me.
Yeah, tough there. Hey, Marcus is extending an olive branch to you, Matt. He says, I gave Matt a lot of gruff last episode. I can say I publicly apologize, and now we're good for now.
Mhm.
Let's see what he says about the championship game. Okay. So I'll tell you what, man, that's going to be a hard one. Like, we're not going to talk about it in depth right now, but that's going to be a tough one. So there we have it, man. The Vienna Vikings holding on and getting back to the championship game. Look at that beautiful graphic like that. Clinched, heading to Stuttgart. And man, I mean, we'll talk about how we think that matchup is going to shake out there. But Vienna, obviously, great regular season, getting that bye, just having to do the one game here in the semifinals. And kudos to the Nordic Storm. I gotta my hats off. I tip my cap to the Nordic Storm. I was very, very impressed with what they did there. And those guys, front office, coaching staff, players, all those guys, fantastic first season and something to build on. Anything else you got in this game, Matt?
Yeah, I mean they did phenomenal. Like you said, they have what I think John Shoop's in Coach of the Year. They got Noble in Assistant Coach of the Year. They got Jadrian MVP. They've got a ton of players throughout. They did a wonderful season throughout. They may say I'm biased a little bit. We all have our teams, me and you, Nick, that we have arguments with. But
Sure.
I think the Nordic Storm have done a wonderful job in their first season.
There we go. Congrats to the Nordic Storm. Glenn, where'd you go? You
Yeah,
disappeared out of the chat. I
disappeared
had
when I
some
was
deep
right. I'm
questions.
just saying, like,
Wait, where'd you go, Glenn? Glenn VP. Get your ass back in here, please. All right. So there we have it. Nordic Storm, Vienna Vikings. Congrats to Vienna. We will see you in Stuttgart this weekend. Moving on to our Sunday game, the South Germany Showdown, the third installment of the trilogy. And the Stuttgart Surge on the road. Karen, you might want to plug your ears for this one. I will say it sounded loud in Munich. It's a very tough place to play. Really good home environment there for the Ravens. Ultimately, the Surge able to come out on top. Matt, talk to me about this one. And welcome into the chat, Jamal.
There
We
we
go.
go. This was a great game. I loved it, back and forth. But realistically, the only thing I can take out of this was, first of all, how good is Riley Hennessy at the moment? Secondly, oh my goodness, this defense is incredible. Like, this is potentially being, like, you remember you referenced it back in 2023 when they last played this great postseason run that the Surge went on with Dow Stewart. This is the same but flipped. This is the Raheem Wilson playoff run. He has been unbelievable at locking up top receivers. Stanley and Cruikshank, both of them kind of zeroed a little bit this playoff run, to be honest. But oh my gosh, like all over. It isn't just Raheem, of course. It's Fettig, it's Lackman, it's Malumba, it's Nico Bang, it's Ben Wentzer who had another great play. This whole team looks loaded. It might be one of the best defense we've ever seen, Nick. It's incredible.
It's fantastic. Don't forget, your Marko Vidakovic and a guy that I think is incredibly underrated in this league, Lucas Siebert. He had a sack, I think, also in the game. Just a physical player, a little bit of a crazy player, sort of a wild card there. He's an outside backer, safety. It's just like, that's you like to see that there. And man, I mean, that Stuttgart Surge defense. I said, Matt, like Munich has been great all season in those one-score games, coming away on top on those one-score games. And I thought once it got 20-7, I think it was that when it was a two-possession game, I was like, okay, Munich's really in trouble here. If they were able to keep it within one score the whole time, I'm like, all right, Munich has really been able to come out on top on those. But the Surge, given that little gap there, and oh my goodness, 8 sacks for the Stuttgart Surge defense, just bringing the pressure after a young quarterback in his first ELF playoff game, mind you. I mean, they had the bye last week, well deserved, but this is his first ELF playoff game, and they brought that pressure. 8 sacks, man. What'd you make of that?
Absolutely incredible performance by the defensive line of Stuttgart Surge. Like, Lackman had a great game. I know he had some moments where, like, I kind of like Lackman for this reason, right? He was going for the sack. So some of them it wouldn't work. He'd end up, getting juked, but then he made the plays when it mattered. He kind of locked up that sack right at the end. That pressure caused Tabor kind of, I don't mean to be rude, but Tabor didn't really do anything in this game except for some plays on the run, of course, but his arm, he wasn't nearly as effective. I called the interception as well, Nick, I must say. Literally, I feel an interception coming here. Next play, interception.
Hey, there you go.
I don't know, I felt very proud about that one. But yeah, this is such a great Munich offensive line. I don't know if this was like a coaching thing, players going, I don't know, a little bit hurt or a little bit tired. I don't know what it was. It was just a masterclass of performance by Stuttgart.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've got a little bit of beef going on social media with Raji, who played for the Madrid Bravos offensive line, and he was criticized by some Munich Ravens offensive linemen last week for their performance against the Surge. And Raji's firing back, saying, "Hey, not so easy, is it, going up against that Surge D line?" Because I don't know, I don't think Madrid let up 8 sacks. They may let up a handful, but I don't think it was as many as Munich. Maybe it was 5 or so. Yeah, Tabor, 12 for 27, 130 yards through the air with a 1 interception, no touchdowns. He did have the 2 on the ground. He was effective on the ground, which I talked to Pastorino that last week and just said, hey, we've got to find a way to stop him on the ground there. And he still was pretty effective. It was kind of their most effective thing is Tabor just running and scrambling. And then you said it, man. Raheem locking down Malik Stanley. Stanley, 4 catches, 45 yards. I mean, and that's just, you needed him to step up big in a playoff game like this. And that Surge secondary just shutting it down there. How about Riley Hennessy? What'd you make of Riley Hennessy there? I mean, we talked about it. This is a game of an older, experienced quarterback and then a youthful, inexperienced quarterback. What'd you make of the quarterbacks?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is big cognac. As soon as we saw him dancing in the end zone, we knew it was over, right? That's the playoff big Hennessy at the moment. But this was a good performance. Of course, you could look at the interception, maybe a bit of a bad play call, bad decision, just throwing it to the back of the end zone for an interception. But overall, he had a very good game. 21 for 29, 240 yards. Also, those 2 touchdowns with his legs, with the sneaks. It was a great performance, and it maybe put some demons to bed now that he's in the final, kind of put together last year, put that behind him now. Home game, he's done all that he's needed to do. He's fresh. He did take a bit of a hit, he did come out for a couple of players. Lars came in, but man, Hennessy was good. I think this is kind of like a tape over stats performance by Riley because he looked really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, as Jamal says right now, Mike Harley Jr., the former Miami Hurricane, My boy was a hurricane for that Ravens defense. What did he have? Let me check his stats real quick because he went over. He was
144.
144 on 9 catches and just chunk plays, chunk plays. And sometimes on third down there too, like pretty clutch. And so there wasn't really an answer there. And then Geyer, it was a great 58 yards, 5 catches there. And so some good opportunities there. And then it's also like I said, when the Surge lost to Munich in their second installment, Munich had absolutely dominated time of possession. Like they won time of possession by like 17, 18 minutes. And here the Surge actually won time of possession by 1 minute. So it was 30 to 29. So really they had a much more even time of possession. I think that helped them kind of control the game a little bit. Whew. Oh, Marcus says, who's the better dancer, Big Cognac or Mike Harley Jr.? I mean, we saw Big Cognac, guy is throwing out some dance moves lately, Matt. You seen those?
He's been moving, and like he's earned himself a reputation now. So if he scores in a championship game, I need to see that first. Saying, well, when he scores, I guess kind of more of a when Riley Hennessy finds his way in. I think it's going to be really good. But that's what also higher, like how good Hardy's catch was on that sideline, that like over the top, like, ball tracking wise. That was one of those plays I'm going to remember for a long time because Hardy was incredible. And you saw that big, like 55-yard catch, I believe it was there as well. Yeah, Hardy is endeared himself. This guy was a late addition to the ELF, by the way. He didn't start with the team at first, but he's been a very welcome addition.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a great kind of I don't think it was exactly mid-season, a few weeks into the season. Jeff Cotton Jr. getting hurt, sent back home, picking up Mike Harley Jr., and that has worked out pretty damn well. So Stuttgart Surge coming in and defeating the Munich Ravens. Congrats to Munich. Awesome season, man. Another awesome season there. Like they've really improved each year. I would say Coach Ellison obviously got that multi-year extension there. Well-deserved. They're in a great position. This, like I said, one of the best rivalries bubbling up in the ELF, close proximity, and the Stuttgart Surge clinch the championship game appearance at home, Matt. It's a home championship game for the Surge. What do you make of that?
Well, it's funny because they're technically the away team. Because they're the lower seed. They're technically the lower team. So they're playing away in their own stadium, which is pretty funny. I'm not going to lie.
There we go. And then let's see what. Hopefully, the Vienna Vikings fans are traveling well. But we're looking forward to that. We're going to be there this weekend. Festivities all weekend. We got the honor show on Saturday. There's some parties, and then of course the game on Sunday. So there we have it. Those are our semifinal games. We're going to take a quick break before we get into our MVP voting in a minute. Be right back. The Egret scooter. Shout out to Euronics and Egret for sending this scooter. You know what? I might just be faster than the fastest player of the week on this thing.
Turns upfield. He's across the 20 to the 30, 40. He's to the 50. It's a foot race.
Well, maybe. Oh, I'm so proud of that commercial right there, Matt.
I would be. If I made that, I wouldn't stop ever talking about it. It was great.
Putting that on the top of my resume. All right. Before we get into the MVPs, we have to do the Euronics and Egret fastest player of the week. And Matt, we were just talking about a bunch. Mike Harley Jr. is the fastest player of the week, presented by Euronics and Egret. Do we have a clip? There we go. Let's check it out.
Look at that speed. That's a 4.47 speed, by the way. I looked it up during the game yesterday. Ran at 4.47. 16 reps at the bench press, by the way. Only weighed 180 pounds. That's some serious strength. So fast and strong.
That's quite good for a receiver. And right there, I love that one. That touch. That was just great effort there to get into the end zone. And then the swimming celebration. Pretty good. Just swimming right into the end zone there. So Mike Harley Jr., our Egret and Euronics fastest player of the week. You know what? We've got one more commercial spot for that scooter. And then let's get into our MVP voting. Throw it up, Lucas.
Discover it at Euronics.
All right, here we go, Matt. The important part, who is going to be nominated for MVP for the semifinal week? Obviously, just 4 teams available, and I think we're probably going to be talking about guys from the winning teams. So, do you want to start us off? But first, guys in the chat and gals, If there's anybody that we miss, anybody that we don't have a graphic for, throw them in there. You guys are helping us decide who's going to be nominated here. These are important ones. This is the semifinal week. We got to be diligent with who we choose on our nominees. So, Matt, you want to start us off?
I'm going to go for Kari Parvarine, finished running back. Of course, had a great season throughout, but in this game was imperative in the run game and the receiver game. 20 attempts, 155 total yards, and a score. Kari was incredible.
It was fantastic, man. And that was a big difference because they had a run game. Notre Dame did not have a run game. Sticking with the Vienna Vikings, we couldn't do this without Ben VP. Where's Malchow when you need him? Ben VP, 24 for 33, 260, 3 touchdowns, no picks. No picks. Precise player, experienced player. Ben Holmes looking solid in the semi-final game. Who we got next, Matt?
A player I just talked about how much I like him. It is Robert Lachman with the great game, 7 total tackles, 2 sacks. You can see there, including the one that kind of iced the game right at the end. He had an incredible performance. Do you like how I put that German on that at the end, Nick?
I was gonna say, dude. Whoa, look at you with the Robert Lachman.
Robert Lachman, yeah.
That's tough for a native English speaker. Us native English speakers. Good job there, Matt. Funky Pat says Ben VP. All right, let's stick with the surge. Back to the Euronics and Egret fastest player of the week. It's Mike Harley Jr. 144 yards on 9 catches and a touchdown. Was absolutely clutch. Big plays. Mike Harley Jr. is in the combo. And then who do we got, Matt?
His quarterback, Riley Hennessy. Great semifinal performance. 21 for 29, as you can see there. Incredibly accurate. 3 total touchdowns, 272 yards in the game for him. And, of course, a trip to the championship game.
Ooh, punch his tickets to the championship game. What is it going to be? A short 7-minute ride to the stadium for an away game for them. So there we have it. So we got those guys in the conversation. Anybody in the chat, if you've got somebody that we missed, Matt, is there anybody else that you want to talk about that should be in it?
I think Chris Malumba had an amazing game. He got a couple sacks. His interior pressure was amazing all game, and he was in the face of Tabor like the whole game, which made him kind of have to run outside, make a few plays. So Chris Malumba will be in there for me. He had a great season overall, so I like him. He's probably my favorite D tackle in the league. I'm not going to lie.
It's quite good. Very athletic too, coming from the interior. And then I would also say, like, there's no sexy stats this week, and he won MVP last week. Raheem, like you said, Raheem Wilson shut down Malik Stanley. And I mean, just 4 catches, less than 50 yards, no touchdowns. And Malik Stanley is a big body, very talented receiver. And that really made that, like, their pass game was just not clicking. And I would at least just throw Raheem here in the conversation there. Spike Porter says Wentzler was also clutch. Yeah, Ben Wentzler was really like that whole Surge secondary, man. There's a lot of guys on the Surge defense that could really be in the conversation. Funky Pat says Ben Holmes, no interceptions also. Matt, are you feeling strongly about anyone that we just absolutely have to nominate?
To be fair, that Wentzler call is pretty good. 4 tackles, an interception, and 4 breakups is quite outstanding. I'm leaning definitely towards Kari. I think I'm surprised not seeing more Kari love in this one, to be honest. Like he was all over the place. He was great in every facet for a running back, and ultimately I think he was a big player. So I'm open to change, but I'm kind of Kari.
If we're going with the in the Vikings conversation, you go Kari over Ben Holmes. I mean, Ben Holmes 3 touchdowns, no picks.
That is true. Ben was really good. He was really good. And some of those plays where he ran out, he got hit late. He took a few hits for the calls and got some penalty yards out of it. So I think maybe I'm to be fair, it's kind of like it's hard to pick because they both played so well. Maybe I would go for Ben over Kari, but we haven't really. I don't think we've given it to a running back very much this year. You know.
I'm not sure if we have. The running back is kind of like an overlooked position in the modern day football. A lot of Wentzler. Ben Wentzler, man. What was his stats? You said 4 tackles.
4 tackles, 1 interception, and 4 pass breakups. So maybe Wentzler could be a cool, you know.
That's tough. That's tough, man. Chat, you guys got to help us out here because, Matt, I mean, if we're going D-line, sacks, or DBs for Stuttgart.
Yeah, it's a big choice. We got to have one of each, right? It makes sense for us to have one of each, but it's kind of picking. It's hard to pick. I'm not going to lie.
Really hard to pick.
Kari or Ben, and then for me, I'm being convinced by Wentz, but then how do we overlook Harley? You know, he was also incredibly good.
I know it's really difficult, but I mean, if we go, I'm leaning towards we got to pick a guy on the Surge defense, even though Mike Harley was awesome. I just feel like the story of that was the defense, really. And I would kind of go there. Ilio K says D line, you got to go there. What do you got, Matt? What were you going to say?
I was going to say this is your kind of not your team, but kind of your team. You know, a team that you are fond of and know a lot of people on. So I think maybe you would have the authority to give that vote for the Surge if we're going to go one for each.
Yeah. Okay. I'm kind of leaning towards Lachman or Ensler. You know what? Just because there were other defensive linemen with the Surge who also had 2 sacks. He's not the only one. So how can we just pick one? I'm kind of leaning towards Ben Ensler. I mean, this is also a homegrown German DB. I mean, we're not getting that too often. A lot of times when we have these, it's like an American DB. So kind of legit there. I think I'm going to go Ben Ensler, man. Do you have a problem with that? Chat, do you guys have a problem with that? Are you guys okay with that?
I'm absolutely okay, but I'm actually going to talk about Ben Wenzel when I make my own video this week because he got 4 interceptions this season, added a 5th this year. He's had a great year. Honestly, he could have been in the Homegrown Player of the Year nominations, and I wouldn't have been mad at it. Maybe we just have like a Ben off, you know? We go Ben Holmes, Ben Wenzel. I think Holmes, that quote afterwards with the Cinderella story ended in Vienna, loved it, and he was great. I think that maybe we have Ben Holmes versus Ben Wenzel.
Ben off. Chat, you guys like the Ben off? I mean, because you got to take that quote into account. Ben Holmes Ben Holmes is like, when he speaks to the media, he's very humble and modest, but it was also able to project a confidence that's very classy. And it's like, doesn't come across as bulletin board material, but it's just like, oh, yeah, all right, Ben Holmes. I like that. So Ben off, TNT says that they're okay with Ben off. Laura, hell yeah, Ben off. Yeah. Chat, we'll give you 30 seconds here, maybe 60 to lock in if we go a Ben off. Marcus says, I agree with Nick. You generally make good decisions. Your favorite team pick is pretty good. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. All right, Matt, I think we're leaning towards the Ben off.
Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. I think both of them had incredible games. And
all right,
that's a good matchup, honestly, with the championship game, too. I'm not going to
lie. Ooh, we get some good matchups. And we'll talk in depth about that on Friday, like the matchups and everything, go into detail of the Vikings versus Surge game. All right, Ben versus Ben. Spike Porter says, Ben versus Ben, we're doing it. So we'll lock it in. You guys know the drill. Vote on the Instagram story in the next 24 hours. Pick your favorite Ben, whichever Ben you think. MVP can go either way here.
Yeah, right? It can. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it can.
MVP of the semifinal week. All right, there we have it. Matt, anything else you want to say about these semifinal games before we sign off?
Oh my goodness. I've got no words. I've ran out of words. I've said so many positive things about both teams. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to congratulate the teams that lost. Some great seasons. Both of them. First year, Nordic Storm had the best first year team we've ever seen. Munich made the jump from like a borderline playoff team last year to being a real contender. I cannot wait to see both of these teams back next season.
Absolutely. There we go. Congrats to them and congrats to our championship game participants. And we'll see next Monday who we're talking about as the winner. Everybody in the chat, thanks so much. Don't forget to vote and do us a favor. Give us a thumbs up on this stream here, wherever you're watching it from. Leave a comment, thumbs up. You know the drill. Help us out. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have a good week. Watch tape, build anticipation, get your tickets. We'll see you in Stuttgart this weekend. Have a good one.